Hi everybody, I'm Forbes Riley and I'm here with my co-host Kevin Harrington, who I'm sure you recognize as one of the original sharks on Shark Tank.
And we've seen Forbes on TV for many years as a fitness celebrity as well as a TV show host. Great to be here with you today, Forbes.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. You know, I'm always looking for the outstanding female role models in the world, and today our guest is unbelievable. Female test pilot, commander, phenomenal credits. I can't wait to introduce you. Please welcome Linda Schaefer Veneria.
Thank you, Forbes.
Great to be here with you,
thanks,
Linda.
Kevin.
Thank
it's
you.
Wonderful to meet you.
It is a tremendous honor when you read your book and you discover all that you've done, and you're going to share a little bit with our audience today. Very exciting.
Thank you.
You were the third Navy test pilot.
I was.
You flew
woman test pilot.
Woman test pilot. I'm sorry.
That's even a
woman test pilot. That's what I meant to say. But you flew F-15s and A-4s, amazing planes, and some tragic things that happened during your flying days, right?
Well, it's only tragic if you don't make it through.
That's true. Can I just ask you, what inspired you? This is not a woman's career. What got you started doing this?
A couple things. I mean, it may not be a woman's career, but I'm not the first woman military in my family. My grandmother was actually a nurse in the front lines in World War I.
Oh, wow.
Okay. So I believed it was possible to be a woman in the military, and what really inspired me is my father. He was a navigator in B-17s in World War II. He had the kind of experience you would expect, maybe not to be inspiring in some ways, but it just made me passionate. His aircraft, it was a B-17, he was sitting in the navigator station, which was in the middle, and on his final mission, what would have been his final mission, 24 and a half, the shell took out his parachute that he was wearing.
Hit the plane.
Hit the plane, took out his parachute.
Where were they?
They were over Germany.
Not a good place for an American to be, okay.
No, and he bailed out, went to pull the D-ring and didn't get an opening shock, and he free fell 10,000 feet into a manure pile and saved his life.
Okay, you never hear that story.
Yeah, thank God.
Or very rarely, I would imagine. 10,000 feet?
You don't hear it from a lot of people,
but
I
heard
it.
I'm sure, right?
He ripped his shoulder out of the socket.
Okay.
That's it.
And
wow.
You know, actually, it was the same shoulder I ripped out of the socket when I had an incident much like that. Later.
But he became a prisoner of war.
He became a prisoner of war
and survived.
He went on several death marches. It was a lot to go through.
It's amazing. This is what inspired you then to be a Navy pilot and a test pilot at that.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, the honor of that, the pictures I'd find, he never had a regret. So it's that whole thing of it's really a calling to come to participate.
I read the amazing part of this. You were in a plane that was actually going to the ground and 600 miles an hour, and you had to eject.
It was one of those situations. I was in A4. There's two leading edge airfoils, attachments to the wing. One came out before the other, and it took me immediately into an inverted spin going down to the ground.
Wow.
Okay, so I'm sitting here thinking, okay, an inverted spin going down towards the ground. I'm not a pilot. I obviously have no nerves or steel, and I'm completely freaking out. You're sitting here very calm, and I'm sitting here going, whatever it is that you've got, can I have some of this?
Well, it's funny, whenever I think of it, it just calms me right down, because that's how you have to be in the moment.
This is what you do now. This is on the edge, how to perform on the edge.
Well, your voice has to go into this calm to talk yourself into this place. It's okay. It'll all be right. And my father, what taught me with my father's incident is that the impossible is possible.
Walking testament. So finish the story, because I'm actually like a roller coaster on the edge of my seat. You're going down in this, and you have to eject at that moment?
I did, and then the unthinkable happens.
What?
I go to initiate the ejection, and I'm still there.
Oh no, okay.
The button didn't work, huh?
What next? Yes?
Well, I was hanging from the seat, plastered against the canopy, and so, I had to really force myself. It's a time to take command of what your future is going to be. If it's 2.5 seconds, that's your future. Okay. And I basically remembered something, and I took my arm and I ripped it backwards, and I got the straightest pull I could on the ejection seat, because when you have one more opportunity left, you better make it a good one that's going to work.
Now, I will share something because I just saw a documentary that most people in a dangerous situation, whether it's a fire or an earthquake, the worst thing you can do is paralyze and freeze, and those people die.
They do.
It's the ones who take action. So you pull this thing and you finally get ejected?
Well, you have to take right action.
Yes.
And the biggest learning, and it impacts so many of my clients because I take them to this situation, I find that, you know, of the 1,000 leaders I've coached, that 99% of them practically don't even take 2 minutes a day to focus on how they're driving their own thinking. That's just incredible to me. I would think it would be incredible to both of you,
Yes.
knowing what's going on. And I take them back to my situation and I go, well, what if you were going down an aircraft and you had 2.5 seconds to live? Would you take an instant there? Or would you just keep doing what you're doing? I said, let me explain to you what a half a second can do for you.
Right.
Oh my God, I just got
This is
chills.
amazing. So
And when I do that, there's like no excuse on why they can't take 2 minutes to go
when you've
forward.
been to the edge like that, this has given you this power to create your own program now that you now are teaching to over 1,000 CEOs, executives, military, even, correct? You're across
Well,
many- government,
international,
right?
working with global companies, the speaking to audiences. These lessons, they apply to everything. And in truth, most people don't experience something that drastic, but they could.
Right.
And if it does happen, the time to work on an emergency, I always say, is not when you're in it.
Also, after 16 years, you actually became a female commanding officer too, which
I
is
did.
pretty powerful. Also, right?
Can I just
Yeah.
get to the end of the story? I'm just sitting here, you object, what happened to the plane?
It was a fireball. From the time I got into my chute and looked down, it was gone.
What was your feeling at that moment?
Relief, frustration, horror, oh my God.
But here's the amazing thing that I know I would not have done. You kept at the job. You didn't walk away going, that was horrible, my plane is gone, I almost died, forget this. You kept going. What does it take to do that?
A decision. Most people never make the decision. The decision I made was I was not going to allow that to be what defined my life.
Oh my gosh, that's powerful.
Yep.
And beyond that, I was going to make a commitment to anybody that I led or came after me that I would leverage everything that I have here, package it and give it back to them so they wouldn't have to go through it. And beyond that, what's the step beyond that is so that they could thrive in all the possibilities that could be open to them and take ownership and run with it.
You know, I think anyone listening to this who hires speakers to empower people, men and women, whether it's a leader or people who need to make decisions, that you would be one of the most phenomenal guests to have on stage. Because there is a calm and a power with the way that you speak, and I love your story.
Well, thank you for that.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. And what you're doing now is you're applying this to business, for example, because I notice in one of your other books, you talk about 26 ways to crazy profitability. So,
one of those is hers.
Yes.
One chapter.
But it's a great chapter about focus and seeing things 2020. There's a clarity about you that I very rarely meet in a woman.
Yeah.
Well, the 2020 comes from being a pilot. You have to have 2020 vision to be a pilot and get your wings. And I actually take it a step forward. Why do we stop at 2020? Why wouldn't go to 2010 or 20 or 20 minus 10? And it's this reframe of trying to be ahead of the game so that your clarity is so acute that you see what's possible before it happens. And one of the concepts of really visioning versus having a vision, I actually think a vision is limiting myself. But when you're visioning, your mind is always open to the next great vision to come along. And how you embrace that and bring yourself into thinking that way allows the door of possibility to always be
You know what I
upon
want to
you.
hear, Linda? Give me an example, somebody that was on the edge in business or military or whatever it might be, and you came in and kind of helped them, coached them to deal with that and transform their thinking.
Well, let me start with a new group that's really come into my realm, which is young leaders.
Okay.
Companies are at this cusp where they have a lot of their high talent rolling out the door, and they need to count on young leaders. And I'm finding that young leaders that are really type A and want to go to the edge are burning themselves out quickly. And what they have valued from my experience is the chance to understand how to pace yourself, how to see how you fit in the game. And so what they get is the freedom of realizing that they can take on a next position and really thrive in it. What the company gets is to keep their talent, not lose it because somebody wants to leave, and they get a high-end game. Another example, this whole realm of 24/7 globally, companies are experiencing, trying to focus in the regional realm, trying to focus in the international realm, getting their processes globalized, and they're all in tension with one another to such a degree that these mindsets are fighting. The models I have with shape-shifting mindset, I've worked with that with a company, for instance, that was going from private to public. And you can't afford to have that kind of tension in the atmosphere. And it allows folks to be very seamless in how they're engaging behaviorally day to day, which was where it counts the most, because the strategy is enacted in the moment.
That's great.
Would you say that your 2020 focus is something that when you come into a company, you can laser see the issues quickly and truly help them change effectively?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's one of the feedbacks I most often get from my clients is that, you have a clarity that I haven't seen, and you make me understand my own thinking. You can actually share it back to me so I understand it and can repeat it.
Well, I would imagine there's a struggling company out there, and I would love you, because I love your book, Plotting the Edge. I love the title of it and everything about it. I'd love you to look directly at them and just tell them the value, because they don't know you exist, what you can bring to the company right there.
Well, there's 80 concepts in here. And this was just the beginning. There's so many more that I've created in terms of models and content and context and skills that can be enacted one by one. So you can actually start with something and see the value, which creates a hunger where somebody wants to take a step further. And what that offers is a chance to be disciplined and on a journey where your company can become more edge and more edge and more edge. So innovation, possibility are something that start to, what I call, ooze out of your pores, because that's where you really want it to happen. And speaking to a shark, that's where profitability starts and ends and becomes the destination.
There's always room for profitability, I always say.
Well, and you also speak, because as I sit here and I read your book and I love your story. I have a 12-year-old daughter who literally walks around saying she's going to be the first female president of the United States. She may or may not. We will see how that happens. But I love that sense of drive, and we're looking for strong, grounded female role models, and I'll tell you what, they're hard to find.
Well, thank you for that. And one piece of advice I have for your daughter is I knew I wanted to fly when I was 5 years old, and my first flight in any aircraft whatsoever was when I was 21 years old.
Oh, wow.
It was exactly how I envisioned it. It was my passion before, after, and during. And so for her, just stay the distance.
Well, one of the things is I actually got my pilot's license at 16 for a private pilot because my dad loved that, and I didn't stick with it after his partner crashed the plane into a parking lot. And the reason I think I'm so connected is I walked away and said, I'm never doing that again. It freaked me out. So I honor what you went through, and I'm amazed. And I think anyone who's lucky enough to hear your story from you and then work with you is lucky enough. I really do. I think it's an honor.
Thank you so much.
Well, it was in your blood. Your grandmother, World War I, your father, World War II, yourself, a Navy test pilot, and it's amazing commanding officer. It's such a pleasure to have you here today and sharing some of your insight to help build a successful business. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Forbes, Kevin, pleasure's mine.
Well,
Thank you, Linda.
Thank you.
Great.